Today was me and my wife's anniversary. To celebrate, I gave her three options. I said we could go out for a fancy dinner, I would take her to Disney World, or I'd be willing to fly her to the city of love, Paris. She said, I don't want none of that. All I want is to go see Nate Bargatze's movie, The Breadwinner. What's up, guys? My name's Hayden Murphy, and welcome to my YouTube channel. So yes, you heard that intro correctly. It is me and my wife's anniversary, and yes, we did go see Nate Bargatze's The Breadwinner to celebrate. Because my wife is a huge Nate Bargatze fan, okay? She's seen every one of his comedy specials. She owns his book. She listens to his podcast on a regular basis, okay? So when we found out that he was making a movie with Mandy Moore, she was over the moon excited for this, okay? We've seen the trailers, and it just so happened that it was coming out on the weekend of our anniversary. So what do? Me and my wife take our son with us to go experience The Breadwinner in theaters. Did we have a fun time? Yes. Unfortunately, the entire theater was empty. Don't know what that means for the overall success of the movie in terms of box office, but I will say for this family and my Nate Bargatze-centered loving wife, we enjoyed the movie. The thing you're probably wondering is, will I enjoy this movie as well? Well, that depends. Honestly, whether or not you're a Nate Bargatze fan or not, okay? Nate Bargatze has a specific type of comedy, okay? He's not going to be everyone's favorite, even though he is like the most successful stand-up comic in the past several years. His comedy style is very deadpan, okay? Gotta be honest, not every one of his jokes always lands for me, okay? But he is very funny. His style of comedy kind of reminds me of like, one of the dads hanging out at the, neighborhood barbecue, just shooting the breeze with his buddies and just telling a story about his life and just everybody, laughing at the comical nature of just everyday life. That's how he comes across. And his face is always keeping it just, so serious. Like, oh, I just can't, blah, blah, blah. Like that's what he looks all the time. And in that deadpan delivery of just everyday normal things, there's comedy in that a lot of everyday normal people can associate with. All of his comedy is very family friendly. He's a very clean comic. He does not use any bad language, and he never touches on any edgy material. So, because of that, it was super refreshing to be able to take my son to a movie that we knew we did not have to worry about anything being bad in this movie. And that's so true. There's nothing in this film to worry about. You can take all your children to go see it. The premise of this movie is that Nate Bargatze's character is the breadwinner for his family. His wife, played by Mandy Moore, is a stay-at-home mom. He is the top car salesman at the Toyota dealership, okay? So he's bringing home the bacon all the time, all right? He is focusing solely on work, and that's it, while his wife gets to handle every other responsibility regarding the family. And this movie, the whole premise, right, is comical in the sense that it puts Nate Bargatze, or the dad, in the place of the mom. What happens is Mandy Moore's character developed some kind of, product that she goes onto Shark Tank to pitch, and she ends up getting a deal, but the deal is contingent on her being able to focus full-time on this product launch, forcing the husband, Nate Bargatze, to have to stay at home and be a full-time dad for several weeks. Thus, comedy ensues, or should I say chaos ensues.
In a word, chaos.
The premise of this movie, again, is nothing new here. You're not coming to the movie to experience a brand new, plot or anything like that. Because as the movie unfolded, I realized the movie I was watching, I'd already seen it probably about 20 years ago. It was called Cheaper by the Dozen.
So Dylan, know any good restaurants?
Okay? Not to say that this movie is an exact ripoff, but it's just, again, the same premise, right? There are a whole lot of the same similar plot beats, and I wouldn't fault anyone for not liking this movie because they think, oh, it's not original, whatever. You're not going to this movie for the plot. You're going to this movie for Nate Bargatze and his style of comedy. So, if you don't like Nate Bargatze, you don't like deadpan comedy, you don't like, family life type of comedy, this movie is not for you. Skip it. Don't waste your time. But for all the rest of us who enjoy that type of clean comedy that you can watch around with your kids and everything like that, that mirrors, home life, of course, this movie's for you.
This one's for you, Harry!
I would recommend go seeing it in theaters. I again, mentioning that the theater was empty, it was super fun for us because we could be as loud and boisterous as we wanted to be. But, it was kind of disappointing to notice that, the audience has not come out as strongly as I anticipated for this movie, even considering that he's like one of the most popular comedic stand-ups in the world right now. I was a little nervous going into the movie, right? Because a lot of times when stand-up comics make the jump to film, it doesn't always necessarily work, right? The medium of stand-up comedy is very different than from telling a cohesive, natural story in a movie. And I was nervous that it wasn't going to translate well. Now, that being said, I do have to say, not every single joke landed in this movie, okay? There were several jokes that were not funny, but none of them were at the fault of Nate Bargatze per se. However, Nate Bargatze did write this movie, but I have to imagine there was a lot of, ad-libbing and things to go on in this film. There are tons of great comedic cameos in this movie. We were watching the movie and we did not realize, oh, this person's in this movie, this one's in this movie. There's a lot of people that show up in the movie that we were excited about. Two of which were great standouts. I'll save that right after the end of this list. Of course, Mandy Moore obviously is in this movie. Unfortunately, she doesn't have a whole lot to do in this film. She's there just essentially as a plot device to have the whole focus be shifted onto Nate Bargatze. Unlike Cheaper by the Dozen, where it did have moments where it highlighted, the struggle that the mom had to do being away from her kids and everything, you don't really get that in this movie. The whole premise is all focused on Nate Bargatze. An interesting appearance was from Zach Cherry. If any of you guys are Severance fans, then you'll recognize him. He played Nate Bargatze's boss. And again, not very much comedic elements from him, but he was a nice touch. That little Zach cherry on top.
I put a cherry on top. Booyah.
Kumail Nanjiani plays a decent enough role in this movie that, unfortunately, this is where almost all of the comedic elements fell flat for me. I'm not that big of a Kumail Nanjiani fan, okay? I don't think he's the funniest guy ever. And, when I saw him, I was thinking, okay, maybe he won't be that prevalent in the movie. It's not too prevalent, but every time he shows up, they even had a little, hot coffee bit in there that I was just like, yeah, this ain't funny.
That's not funny!
The entire theater was silent. All three of us in the theater were silent. A lot of SNL cameos showed up in this movie, whether they're previous SNL alum or current cast members right now. Martin Herlihy, I think that's how you say his last name, from the Please Don't Destroy segment of SNL. He was great in the limited role he was in, but he was being his normal self, okay? Nothing too crazy or memorable from him. But the two standouts of the movie, this to me were my favorite things that they did throughout the movie. And it wasn't just a one-time, little joke. It was two through lines throughout the whole movie that I love these actors, I love them for who they are, and they really shined in this movie as well, and the movie gave them the time to shine. Colin Jost, the co-host of the Weekend Update segment, also known as Scarlett Johansson's husband, right? Okay.
Hey, boo!
He had a running gag of being a also stay-at-home type of dad that once Nate Bargatze, starts being a stay-at-home dad, he starts moving into Colin Jost territory, right? But Colin Jost is somewhat territorial, but also wanting to be friends with Nate Bargatze. He admires him and just wants to be super, just like him. And it's really funny, the ongoing jokes with that. But the highlight of the movie, okay, the best, Will Forte, okay, yes, Will Forte of the MacGruber fame, okay. He showed up as the roof repairman, okay? And at first I thought it would just be a tiny little cameo. No, he is throughout this movie. and he becomes more and more intertwined with Nate and his family. And I loved it. It was so great. The more and more he kept showing up, I was eating it all up. It was great. I will say that the movie dragged a little bit about halfway through the film, okay? The movie had a great opening with that Shark Tank sequence. Again, I loved Shark Tank. I used to watch it religiously and would just get so invested, all right, pun intended.
Pun intended.
In the show and the products and all that, to the point where they had this great gag with him coming on. It was wonderful, pun intended again.
Pun intended.
Mr. Wonderful dropped out immediately, of course, like he should have.
I hate it. I'm out.
But that was such a great start. And then after that, it started to kind of wane a little bit till about halfway through the movie when things got kicked into, higher gear and it ramped up significantly for the latter part of the movie. And it very much worked out by the end of the film. I was a little nervous there halfway through, but then again, it got a little kick of energy. I don't know if they had to rework something or not, but they had a kick of energy halfway through and great solid finish. Now, I've seen a lot of Nate Bargatze's comedy specials, but I've not, seen every little tiny joke, every little thing he said. So when the credits came up to roll, it started showing clips of Nate's jokes and how those inspired scenes in the movie. And I asked my wife afterwards, I was like, oh, that's interesting. He took some of his jokes from his comedy specials and incorporated those into scenes through the story. And I asked her, I was like, did you recognize those jokes, like, as it was happening in real time? She was like, oh, yeah, I totally did. She said, I'm like, well, did that bother you? Like, because you kind of already knew, like, what potentially might happen? She's like, oh, no, it was actually better seeing it in the environment that, like, it wasn't just him telling it, like, in this comedy special. You got to see it happen in real time, like a sketch comedy, So, yeah, overall, we really enjoyed it. I had a fun time. I think this is the perfect family movie that you can go out, have a good time. Are there problems with it? Yes. Do all the jokes land? No. Is the plot structure essentially cheaper by the dozen? Yes. But in this day and age, you got to take what you can get, okay? Nate Bargatze did a pretty good job for his first outing in this movie. Is it going to go, be huge success? Probably not. I wish it would be. But I feel like this movie is going to gain a bigger audience once it hits streaming. It might be hard for the very, demographic he's trying to get with those family, that they can find a babysitter, that they can come out, and it's like maybe they don't want to take all their little tiny kids. But you know what? Friday night, pop it on, pop a bag of popcorn. You've got a deal right there. It's just that I think is where this movie is gonna, once it comes out to streaming, it's really gonna skyrocket. But that's what I thought about this movie. I want to know, what did you guys think? Are you going to see it? At this point, I might not even get any views on this video, but I want to know, did the jokes land for you? Maybe you were disappointed in the movie. I don't know. Do me a favor, drop me a like. Let me know in the comment section what your thoughts were, and go ahead and subscribe because I got tons of movie reviews coming out in the next couple weeks. I appreciate you guys taking the time to watch this video, and I'll catch you on the flip side. Bye.